What's going on today, Internet? Selfish here with Retrospect. Today we're going to take a look at the NupSup, or the NX50, or the NXP 5001, depending on where you look. This has many a name. This should be a pretty short review, so grab yourself a shot of real whiskey to make this thing look better, and let's get on with it. Alright, boy oh boy, let's see what we got here. I've got a handful of devices to review right now that I've been kind of neglecting, so we're going to get around to this one. I kind of put the ones on the back burner that have been out for a while. This one's been out since 2000 in some rendition or another. They have updated it a couple times over the years, so we're going to see if this new updated version that they're telling me about is any better or any different than the ones that they've had in the past. Here in our box, it talks about everything it can and cannot do. It plays up to PS1. It does not play all video formats like some of them do, but it's specific and it's supposed to make it better, is what I've been told. This is a choking hazard for small children because there's small parts, which really concerns me with the handset that there would be small parts coming off of a handset, but we'll find out about that. And they could decide what screen or anything that this thing had on it, so they checked no boxes. So I guess we're going to go boxes unchecked on this one. It's kind of a cool box. I don't know. It looks like it's a candy box for some reason. It reminds me of Christmas. Maybe that's what they were going for, like a Christmas present. Take the lid off here. All right. We got the fuzzies. Cool. Got the device. We have a micro USB charger. Great. So it's not Type-C, so they haven't updated that yet. We also have what appears to be the world's cheapest USB card reader. It's a USB 2.0 micro card reader. Sweet. We have word paper here that apparently opens backward. Doesn't tell us a whole lot other than if you're having problems with it, check the battery. Sweet. All right, we'll get rid of this stuff here and move on to the device. I find this an interesting looking device. I think it has some potential if done correctly. So let's go over the I/O real quick before we turn it on and see how the gameplay is. All right, so we'll go to the top here first. We have some very micro switches. They're actually kind of hard to push down. Not really like difficult, but not what you'd want it to be. We have an HDMI hole. We have a micro USB hole. We have an SD slot hole with a 16 gig memory card. The box does say that it has an 8 gig memory card in it, so I guess we're coming out ahead there. We do have a 355 millimeter hole. I'm not sure if you can do video through that, but we do have an HDMI, and we do have a power on-off switch. On the back here, we have what looks like it used to have a camera, which it no longer has, which is nice to see that they took that out of there, because these cameras suck anyways. And it looks like stereo speakers, though I guarantee you there's probably only one speaker in here, just by the way this thing is. Bottom, we've got nothing on the sides. On the front here are face buttons. They're okay. They're not great. They're pretty springy. They don't fall underneath the shell, though, so that's pretty good. Unfortunately, we don't have a D-pad. We have directional buttons. Feel exactly the same membrane that they use on the other side. We do have a Switch-style joystick, and this one does have L3. Kind of neat. It looks like there might be lights around it, or maybe that's just a piece of plastic that does that. We have our start and select buttons, our volume plus and minus, and then you do have an escape button over here. Let's get the screen cover off. I don't know if you'll be able to hear this. Not one of the fun ones. Okay, the screen looks pretty nice and shiny. Give her a look. It's actually kind of comfortable to hold. I don't think you'd want to use the directional buttons very much, just because it would be a weird, awkward thing, but I mean, I don't think those directional buttons are going to work very well anyways. We have the UI here that looks like the PlayStation Vita, which is probably the most hated Sony UI ever, but hey, they use this UI on a lot of handhelds right now, and I'm not sure why. You got books, folders, stopwatch, same stuff we see in all of them. Let's turn off this noise that it's making. Actually, you know what? I want to try something real quick. Yeah. Look, can you hear the delay? There's like a second delay between the shoulder buttons and the device itself. Okay, we're going to go turn off this key noise. That's probably the best one. That's one they should have shipped it with. Okay, we're turning it off. Let's see what it's got for games here. So I know it's multi-system up to PS1. It does say it supports 7. Usually they say 10, so we're missing a couple in there. So we got some Super Famicom or Super NES. We've got some Master Drive. We have some NES or Famicom. We have some MAME. So we got some arcade in here. We got some GBA Color, and PS1. So we're missing like a lot of like regular Game Boy and stuff like that. That's typically on these, but that's okay. We'll take a look at a couple of games here and we will go from there. I was going to say the Mario games probably aren't on here because they've been taking them off stuff, but hey, the first game is Mario's missing. We're going to try Mortal Kombat on Super Nintendo. Oh, I hate these menus where they tell you to restart even though you're starting for the first time. Enough to have a guy insane. Whew, that's loud. So I was only able to find one spec sheet on this, and I don't think it's actually accurate, but I will put it up on the screen here as we're going through this, just so you guys can look at the specs that it thinks that it has. It does say that it has a 2279B CPU, I don't think that's accurate. We might pull this apart and find out, but I don't think that's correct. We also might pull it apart and find out if there's 2 speakers in here. So Mortal Kombat on Super Nintendo, which was kind of more of a Sega game back then, but... Wow, I didn't even get a hit off. Let's see if this round goes any better than the last one did. Probably not. Jesus. In expert mode? Oh, I was actually able to pull off a move. Oh, that was it, though. I'm done. Wow. Well, this game plays at the right speed, and it sounds like the audio is caught up, so that's good. So we'll get out of here. We'll try something else. We're just going to try a game per system here just to kind of knock these out and see how she does. We'll do a little Doom on Mega Drive. Oh, boy. So I remember Doom not looking great on Mega Drive, but this is not the way that Doom is supposed to look on here. This is not the best way to play Doom. I would not recommend playing Doom on Mega Drive on here. Let's try another Mega Drive game out and make sure this is a one-off, not something that's in all of them. I've never played this game before, and it's not in English, so I might be screwed. Wow, that is a very tactile button. Never played this game before. I just wanted to make sure there were games in here that looked better than Doom, because that was terrible. Okay, well, this looks a little better. It sounds like the audio is, for the most part, keeping up, so that must just be a one-off with that Doom game. And maybe it's a bad ROM. We can always change that out later, too. My goal here, I think, is to set this up for my kids and choose which ROMs are on here, but right now I'm just going through what they sent me. Oh, no. How are you going to find an NES game on here? Which number NES game do you want? Oh, there's a few down here. Okay, well, that's better. I don't know why they're in weird folders up on top, but we'll try Castlevania out real quick. Well, I'm glad NES seems to be okay on here, because you can pretty much play that on a calculator these days. We know NES works. Let's move on from NES. We're going to try a little Capcom here. I'm not excited to use these. I feel like I'm going to get stuck using the joystick. Luckily, the joystick does stick up, it seems, far enough where it's usable for a game like this. I'm not sure why they didn't put the regular Game Boy and Neo Geo and things on here. I don't know if they were just trying to save space on a memory card, but there's plenty more systems that could be put on this chip if they're playing these games just fine. Okay, let's try these out. Yeah, these kind of suck, honestly. I don't want to talk bad about them, but they suck. And let's be honest, I'm honest about all this stuff all the time. This is not the way I'd want to play. But the good thing is, the way this is set up, somehow this one joystick here is easier to use. And these buttons over here, I mean, they're just buttons. It's not that big of a deal. I really hope the PlayStation game isn't going to be Tekken, because that's typically the game you see on this operating system, and that game does not play well on these chips. Anytime you need to get the menu, it's just this escape button right here. Didn't seem to work on the home screen, but it seems to work just fine in all these games. Game Boy Advance. I don't know why B and A are swapped. Well, this seems to work just fine. It actually looks like it's downscaled a little bit, though, and I don't know if we can change that. Okay, so I did find where you can map the keys on here, which is just under that settings menu. Interestingly enough, it thinks that A and B are A and B correctly. So I believe that the buttons are backward on here. As you can see, if I choose this and I go A, it puts B on there. So we'll try that, see if it works. Okay, well, that seems a little bit more right. Look at me go now. Yay. It's amazing what a little button mapping will do for you. Load into some Game Boy Color here. Play a little Shrek. I don't know how you wouldn't be able to do this one if you were able to get Game Boy Advance. Wow, this thing's getting dirty quick. Look at that. Smudgies. I hate smudgies on my screen. I think my kids would enjoy this if I loaded up with games like this. Kind of help them get into retro gaming. I'm pretty sure they have Shrek on their Switches. Audio's a little slow, but it's not too bad. I think part of the problem with the audio on this device is that it's trying to play it in stereo with a mono speaker. I think. But like I said, I don't know if there is really only one speaker in here or not. We're going to find out here in a minute. All right, so that seems to work just fine. We're going to try one last thing. We're going to try a PS1 game, because that's what's loaded on here. I still think that you can put other systems on here. 3, 4, 5, 6. It does have 7 on here, so maybe this is it. But Mega Man. Okay, so that's better than Tekken 3. Typically, that's what you have on here. To be honest, the audio is a lot less choppy than I thought it was going to be. I could play Mega Man on here. I wouldn't want to, but you could. It's a really comfortable device, though, to be honest with you. The way it sits in your hands is it really just kind of cups in here. And you'd think you'd be covering these speakers. Oh, wait, now you can tell if it's only one. Okay, now I'm confused. I still think there's only one in there, but I think the grates might be open on both sides. And since we know there's no camera here, there's no IR port that's listed, I don't know what's in here. So I'd say your lower level PS games are going to be just fine. I could load some more on here and test it, but I think that we already kind of know what the outcome is going to be on that. Obviously, you can't play PSP, you can't play N64 or GameCube, anything like that on here. So let's take a look inside of this bad boy and just see what the inside looks like real quick. And I really just want to see mostly what the CPU chip is, because I don't think that it's listed correctly. All right, let's take a look at the innards of this bad boy. I believe this is a 00. Yep. Most gaming handhelds, if you do have to pull them apart, If they're not like a hex or something like that, they're usually double or triple zeros these days. Let's stick to my pad. Yeah, kind of. Oh, my screwdriver's not long enough. Well, crap. How am I going to do that? Shout out to Mio for sending me this screwdriver so I could replace the screen on my V4. No, it wasn't because it looked like crap. It literally was just, I don't know what happened to it. I have no idea. I'm not asking any questions. They didn't ask any questions. They just sent me a new screen. And I honestly have no idea. It was like 2 days after I got it, and yeah. Okay, well, I guess they're going to stay in there, but they're loose, I think. This is going to be like the M17. It's going to be glued together or something. Usually with these, if you can't find a seam that started to split on its own, which I'm actually, oh, there we go. I was going to say, I'm kind of surprised it hasn't. You can actually just go through the shoulder buttons, which is kind of where this one just started itself too. This one doesn't seem to be glued together though, so, no, it's actually kind of coming. Let's hope it keeps going this smoothly here. Nope, I spoke too soon. I'm going to guess that the battery or something is probably glued to the back. Oh, of the speaker. I bet it's the speaker. Oh, there's one of the screws. Here comes the other one. Oh. Okay. It's definitely going to be the speakers. Huh. Called it. Okay, so there is really only one speaker in here. Interestingly enough, there's actually a spot to put a speaker right here. So they were just too cheap to put the second speaker in. That's really unfortunate because it's all set up to have 2 speakers. Battery here is just sort of taped on, not well. Kind of like, I prefer to have a plug. One cool thing about this battery though is you could put any size battery you wanted in here, which would be helpful because this is only a 2000 milliamp battery. You could put in any bigger battery and you would get more gameplay time out of it, which is probably what I'll do if I decide to set this up for my kids. Okay, let's see what else we got here. You have a sister or daughter board for your joystick. Looks like the Switch style connector, though I don't know that you'd want to do that. I think I'm just gonna leave that joystick in there as I pull this off. So the only thing you gotta be kind of conscious of is that your 355mm jack is sticking through, and I'm sure we're connected here by the screen. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen rubber membranes in a device like this before. The chip is actually listed correctly. It's an ATJ2279B. I've seen this chip before, but that is not what I thought was in here. So I feel like there is a little bit more potential you could probably get out of this if you could screw around with it, but I don't think the community is going to pick this up. It's been out for a while. It's been updated a couple of times. I just don't think they're going to pick it up, and I don't blame them. All right, now let's see if we can put this thing back together now that all the other buttons fell out. Well, that screws had better days, but whatever. We're not going to pull this apart again unless we do. It'll be to here, and I'm just going to solder in a speaker. I have a box full of Nintendo Switch speakers, which I would be tempted to do right now, except for A, I don't want to waste one, and B, I don't really have a B. Just don't want to waste one. Oh, I don't want to get out my soldering iron. I knew I had a thought process there, and I lost it in the middle of my thought process. Now I just need to put these other shoulder buttons back in. Well, it looks like I got to put a speaker in here anyways. I'm going to switch them out with 2 Nintendo Switch speakers, but I'm going to wait until I have my soldering out for another project, because I've got one coming up that I'll have to have it out all day. These will be pretty quick and easy, but these were not soldered in there very well. Now that she's all put back together, let's talk about who this device is for. It's definitely a novice device. It's not for anybody who's been collecting these for a while or who's real passionate about retro gaming. It's also a great device for children. If you set this up for children, they're not going to know the difference. It's about the size of a Nintendo Switch, so if they already have one, it might be a good opportunity to get them into something that's roughly the same size. My kids use Satisfy grips on their Switches, so this would be kind of that same structure for them. Obviously not quite as comfortable, but that same structure as far as how the gripping status goes. That would be a good device for them. As far as the actual enthusiasts in this, I mean, it's a good collector device. It's been around for a while, so it's been hardy. It's not one of those devices that showed up and then just disappeared immediately. It's just not one of those devices that really has ever been updated the way that it needs to be. It deserves more than what it's gotten. There is some opportunity here. I am surprised that was a CPU that was in here. Was not expecting that. But that's what it is. So there is some opportunity here to get a little bit further in gaming on this. I don't think anybody's ever going to do anything with it, but it could push a little bit harder. Also, I think some of the emulators that they're using in here, or the emulating software that they're using in here, is actually about 10 years old. I think where this kind of falls short as far as how they advertise this device is this is one of those devices they never even advertised in the beginning as being a PS1 device. They list off all these other game systems. Then once people realize that, hey, you can push a couple of PS1 games out, maybe some RPGs or something like that, we're going to start listing them off as a PS1 device. They were smart on this one, though. Typically, they're going to put Tekken 3 on here as your trial game on PS1. They tend to only put one game on there. Tekken 3 never works. So for them to go and put Mega Man on here makes this feel like a more valid device for a PS1 device. I would say if you want to play anything up to PS1, this is a great device. If you want to play some old arcade and stuff like that, don't expect to be using this D-pad. There's really no good way to use it, especially in arcade. This joystick is fine. It's not, it doesn't have a lot of travel, which kind of sucks for how tall it is. You'd think it'd have a little bit more travel, but it also is right on the ring. It is nice that it has L3, but none of the games are going to be able to play have L3. For how hard these shoulder buttons were to put back in, you don't really use them. So they're kind of pointless. And I think if you took these out and maybe use that opportunity to use speakers and things like that. Speaking of speakers, I'm going to have to go and solder this one back in. Maybe I'll throw a Switch one in with it. Or maybe I won't solder it in. I'll set that up for my kids. And then they're going to be required to use headphones. It's a win-win for everybody. That might be the route I go. What do you think? If you're an avid collector, do you think this is worth adding to your collection? Or if you got kids, do you think the $30 is worth it? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Also, don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. And don't forget to share this video with your friends, because sharing is caring. Thanks for watching. It helps me hit the subscribe button, and there's one right there on the screen. So if you're feeling frisky, why don't you hit that for me? I'd really appreciate it. Also, check out one of these other videos I got. Thanks for watching.